Today's podcast is sponsored by the Association of Mature American Citizens, the only conservative alternative to AARP. Go to amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter. We've got a lot to get into this podcast today because so much has been happening. And some of it, I believe, is just going right underneath the radar. Because as you know and I know, the mainstream media has basically failed in its ability to actually get the truth out to the American people. That's just a fact. That's just a fact over the last 6 years. And actually holding accountable those in office, like President Biden, for example, and Jen Psaki, for example, and others, to tell the truth. Even though we see it right in our face every single day at the U.S.-Mexico border. What is going on there right now is gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching. I'm going to tell you, I've got some breaking news for you. At the border right now, they are looking at getting more than, I was told right now, about 800 more National Guard into the Eagle Pass area. And they are looking at getting more DPS along the border, that is along the Rio Grande River, because they are expecting 10,000 plus people to be streaming in just within the next few days. And I think it's going to be so much more than that. There is something happening now at the border, as it has been all year, and it's not slowing down, that is affecting the national security of the United States. It is a humanitarian crisis. It is putting our Border Patrol agents in danger. And in fact, I'll be telling you guys a little bit more about something very disturbing that happened at the border recently and something that I'm going to be investigating. I will give a little bit of a hint of that later on in my show here with you. I just think it's what I heard was so disturbing and it bothered me so much that it's kind of left me twisted up. And I still need to double check and fact check everything, although I do know it happened. I just don't have all the details around it. I'll be sharing that with you later in the show. I'm also going to be talking to you about Igor Danchenko. Igor Danchenko is another character in the cast of characters of the Russia hoax, a story that I spent years of my life on. Of course, many of you remember with Sean Hannity breaking those stories every single day, and with John Solomon. Igor Danchenko is actually worked with the Brookings Institution. He was introduced to Christopher Steele, and I'll go into details about that with Fiona Hill. Remember, good old Fiona Hill. She had a great accent. But she worked during the Trump administration, she actually worked in the NSC. She was very close to H.R. McMaster. Yes, remember all of these characters: Igor Danchenko, Christopher Steele, Fiona Hill, and H.R. McMaster. Remember all those names because I'm going to be talking about that and General Flynn and how that all connects upcoming in the show. One of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, what's going to happen next? Will there be more indictments? What does this all mean? Right? So not only do we have to come up to date with everything that's happening on the border and all the national security issues concerned there with our Border Patrol agents and our great ICE agents, immigration and customs enforcement officers. And by the way, there is a show on Netflix, you guys, and I'm throwing it out there, Roswell, and I'm stunned when I watch this show. It is so far to the left, it can't even see the right. It's like so far to the... I thought I was going to be watching a great show about aliens. And the reason it just popped into my head is because in this show, they make out ICE agents to be these like horrific law enforcement officers. And I mean, everything is about making anything on the left look and feel good, down to like an alien abortion. It is the weirdest show ever. Weird. I mean, I just had to stop watching it because I didn't know what was going on there. Anyways, so just a warning, just a heads up in case you watch that show. Remember to please follow and subscribe. Get all the links at SaraACarter.com. That's SaraACarter.com. And while you are there, I need you to sign up for our email list. And by the way, go to the website. It looks phenomenal. We've had it redesigned. It's great. We're still doing some work to it, but I've got great writers. They're posting great stories. Great stories. In fact, one of them I'm going to be talking about today is the migrants that are mysteriously flying into Florida during the middle of the night. Remember, like those flights that were going into Tennessee and other parts of the country. So we're going to be talking about what that means and why Governor Ron DeSantis wants some answers, and he wants them now. Go to my website, sign up for our email list so you do not get shadow banned. I don't want us to lose communication with one another. It's really that important. We are all a part of the same team. You know, we are all here to defend our country, but we can't do that unless you and I are in communication, unless we're connected to one another and hearing each other's voices. Another thing, my great friend Mike Lindell actually has a very big special for all my radio listeners. If you go to mypillow.com right now and click on the radio listener specials, you'll get deep discounts on all my pillow mattress toppers, towels, and so much more. By the way, they have slippers, dog beds, and even high quality weight blankets. You guys can go there. Start your Christmas shopping early. Mike Lindell will love you for it. He's a real American, real true American patriot. All my pillow products, listen to this, come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. You cannot beat that, folks. A 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty on all my pillow products. And guess what? 100% made in the USA. 100%. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener specials for the buy one, get one free offer on the Giza Dream bed sheets. Great, soft, wonderful. Enter promo code Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, or call 1-800-685-7221 for great MyPillow specials. That's 1-800-685-7221. Be sure to use the promo code Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, at checkout. Guys, I want you to think about this. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that has actually been really disturbing me lately because I've brought it up on the show before. We were able to get out that is through Congressman Mike Garcia's office, my great friend Charles Navarro, and I, and others who created a kind of like what we call a rat line, right? This is a way of getting someone from point A to point B through a very dangerous situation. And in Afghanistan, as you all remember, it is very, very dangerous situation. And so it took about 5 weeks for us to actually, through financial, a donor, to figure out how to get certain money to certain people so that we could get 4 women, a mother and her 3 daughters. So it was like 2 ladies and 2 younger, under 18 folks out of Afghanistan through the Taliban lines and across the border into Pakistan and eventually to the United States. Because guess what? They're green card holders. They are green card holders. They belong here. They had family here. They were actually living in California. Anyways, by the grace of God, we got them through. We're still on hold right now for others. It costs money. It takes time, coordination more than anything, because people can lose their lives. So we have to be very, very careful. Then I knew there were thousands of Americans over there, people with green cards, people connected to the United States, people with family here. But the State Department just kept lying and lying and lying about it. Or how they would do it is they would twist their words, right? So that we wouldn't really know how many people were actually there. And foreignpolicy.com did this incredible story. And they got the State Department to admit that 14,000 green card holders are still stuck in Afghanistan. And the State Department, and I know this for a fact, has been doing nothing about it. In fact, they have been making it almost impossible for people to get out. They have been basically changing the rules anytime they want. Congressman Mike Garcia exposed this. Congressman Ronnie Jackson exposed this. Congressman Mike Waltz out of Florida has exposed this. So like every time I go in to check on someone, like for example, I've sponsored a family through a P2 program. Every time I go on to check, now they don't write back. They don't say anything. Why? Because they've changed the rules. They put out a different application. They've put out different rules of how they are going to process these people into the United States. They basically want to make it so cumbersome that we just say, forget it, throw our hands up in the air and say, F it. Well, I'm not, and I know a lot of other people are not. So State Department, let this be a warning to you. We are going to continue to hound you. We are going to continue to fight to get every single American out, because guess what? That was our promise, and that's what we will do. We don't leave people behind. At least that is the way I was raised. So I just wanted to throw that out as a warning. Thought I would update you guys on what's going on with that. Another story that I think is so important that you all have to pay attention to is what John Durham has been up to at the Department of Justice. And this is so important because why? We can't just walk away, folks. This isn't like a TV show where we get tired of it and we say, I'm done with that story. On to the next story. There is a story that is still unfolding. And I think it was one of the greatest atrocities to a sitting U.S. president in the history of the United States, other than maybe what happened, like when you think of assassinations and things of that nature. But I'm talking politically. I am talking a politically targeted pseudo coup in a way inside the United States of America against President Trump and the American people. That was orchestrated by people who supported Hillary Rodham Clinton, people who supported her, and people who did not want President Trump in office. They did not. That was prior to 2016 elections and even after. And they worked in concert. And this is the establishment, folks. There really is an establishment. They didn't want a guy in there who didn't owe anybody anything. Oh my gosh, for crying out loud. That would be hearsay, right? They didn't want him in there. They didn't want him peeking underneath all of their secrets, opening those closets, lifting up those covers, looking at what they were doing. That's why they didn't want Lieutenant General Michael Flynn as the National Security Advisor. They did everything in their power to target Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who, by the way, is an American hero and a true patriot. I have known him. I know others who've known him and worked with him for years. I knew him since he was the J2 at the Pentagon. He was an honorable and is an honorable man. These people are not honorable. These people are the worst of the worst. And I'm talking about that bureaucracy. I'm talking about the people that were in there like Andy McCabe. I'm talking about the people that were working inside the Justice Department at the time. The people that pillaged and did everything they could to trample our Constitution in an effort to take down President Trump. And more importantly, it's not that difficult to see how they did it. They were trained. These are trained operatives. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what happened because Igor Danchenko, he's a Russian-born lawyer that worked in the United States. He worked for the Brookings Institute. Okay? Igor Danchenko worked in the Brookings Institute, and he was introduced by none other than Fiona Hill. Remember Fiona Hill? Fiona Hill was actually testifying. She's a Russia expert. She worked under President Trump at the NSC, and she also worked at the Brookings Institute. It's a think tank in Washington, D.C. And about 10 years ago, she had introduced Igor Danchenko to none other than her good friend, Christopher Steele. Remember Christopher Steele? He's the author behind the dossier. That wonderful piece of disinformation that spread across the globe, right? That even the FBI knew was worthless. Worthless. All you have to do is read the Mueller report. More importantly, read the Inspector General's report on this. But she made those connections, right? So she knew Igor Danchenko. Interesting. She introduced him to Christopher Steele about a decade ago. Interesting. Still friends with them. Still very close with them. And then none other at the Brookings Institute was a man by the name of Charles Dolan. And he was very, very good friends, and still is, I'm sure, with Hillary Clinton. Yep. Very good friends with Hillary Clinton. And he was also at the Brookings Institute for a while. And so in 2016, interestingly enough, who introduces Charles Dolan to Igor Danchenko? None other than Fiona Hill. None other than Fiona Hill. Fiona Hill introduces him in 2016. And it was Charles Dolan, who is called PR Executive 1, by the way, in the indictment put together by John Durham. But Charles Dolan then tells Danchenko some like crazy, weird lies about President Trump. It makes sense, doesn't it? Why does this make so much sense? Because it was Danchenko who then goes to Christopher Steele and becomes Christopher Steele's main source of information against the president. All lies. If you read the 39-page indictment by John Durham, where the grand jury basically accuses Danchenko of 5 counts of making false statements to the FBI, you gotta ask yourself this. How come they're just going after Danchenko? Right? Do you know who else Fiona Hill was very close to? She was very close to H.R. McMaster. Who is H.R. McMaster? Do you guys remember? He was the National Security Advisor that replaced none other than Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. So you basically have the foxes in the hen house, the foxes guarding the hen house, right? Remember when First Lady Melania Trump made a statement? I don't know if it was like, maybe it was 2018 or 19, that she didn't even trust people inside the White House. She was right. She shouldn't have trusted people inside the White House. She was 100% right. Because President Trump was surrounded by foxes. And the people that he thought he could trust, he couldn't trust. I just want to take you back in time just to think about this. Think about 2017 January, right? So in 2017 in January, John Brennan, James Comey, and James Clapper, and so for all of you who remember, Brennan was head of the CIA, Comey was head of the FBI, and Clapper, of course, was the national security guy, right? They all go to brief President Trump at Trump Tower. And the main purpose we know now of that briefing was so that they could not only brief him on the national security aspects and things that were affecting the United States, just China, whatever, Russia, whatever, just the basics, but they specifically wanted to brief him on the dodgy Steele dossier, which, by the way, they already knew was shit. Let's just be honest. It wasn't even worth the paper it was written on. It was just full of lies. Lies, by the way, that destroyed people's lives. Svetlana Lokova, who was a Russian, I remember Russian researcher in England, got wrapped up into it. Her whole life was just torn apart. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Carter Page, who basically just volunteered some time as a foreign policy advisor for Trump, ended up in the middle of this, ended up being spied on, ended up now is fighting for his name back. He's been cleared. Carter Page, and eventually we found out he was reporting on the Russians to the CIA. But the whole reason for that meeting was so that Clapper said, you gotta brief him on this dossier. And what part of the dossier did they brief him on? They briefed him on the most salacious parts of that dossier. Basically the part of the dossier too, where 2 prostitutes apparently that he hired in Moscow. Okay, Trump is not an idiot, guys. He is pretty smart. He's not going to be hiring prostitutes to urinate on the bed where former President Obama and Michelle slept and then laugh about it. First of all, he's a bit of a germaphobe. He doesn't like that. And almost everybody who knows him knows that. And secondly, he's not an idiot. Businessmen that travel overseas, especially people with billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, do not just invite prostitutes to do weird shit in their room because they know that they will be blackmailed. So common sense tells us that for the most part that did not happen. In fact, Trump was so astonished during that meeting that he was just like, well, that's just a bunch of lies. Like, I can't even believe this. You guys even paid attention to that? Like, he didn't even pay attention to it. He was like, that's just lies. But there was a reason why they wanted to do that. The whole reason was, and I was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I'm going to remind you of this, is that nobody wanted to put that dossier into the paper. Not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, not me, not anyone. Why? Because nobody believed it. I mean, it was just full of holes and all kinds of weird shit. Maybe only Natasha Bertrand, remember her? The one that got promoted all the way up? She was a big advocate of pushing out those lies. Huge. And I think at the time she was with BuzzFeed. She worked at The Atlantic. She went to Politico. She went to CNN. But BuzzFeed eventually put the whole dang dossier. They haven't admitted that this dossier was full of crap. Let's just say that again, because there's no other way to describe it. I'm sorry for my language. They still haven't even come out and said, hey, we're sorry. We spread disinformation. By the way, I believe Russian disinformation. Yeah, I believe that was the Russian disinformation. The Russians didn't care. They really didn't. They didn't understand Trump. In fact, they were more afraid of Trump than they were of Hillary Clinton. They really were. I know this for a fact. I knew people that went into the embassy, the Russian embassy at the time. Kislyak was then the ambassador. And Kislyak was very confused. He didn't understand Trump. They didn't have any relation with Trump. They did know about Hillary. They felt they had Hillary pinned. They knew exactly what she was motivated by: money, power. They knew her. They didn't understand Trump. He was kind of like this odd, chaotic figure for them. 1 minute he was this way, the next minute he was the other way. So I think the Russians would have been perfectly happy with just having Hillary Clinton. So I do not buy the bull that they want Trump. I do not buy that. They may just want him now because Biden is just like out there. He's like completely gone. We don't even know what he's saying half the time. I'm stacking some pasta. I don't know. I'm sauces. I mean, nobody even knows what he's saying. It's like so weird. So weird. So let me get you back there. So they brief President Trump on this dossier. And then what happens? Story goes eventually. BuzzFeed publishes the entire dossier on their website. Then shortly after, Jake Tapper and CNN push this big story. Senior officials say Trump briefed on this dossier. Must be true. We don't even question it. We don't even question the political opponents. And that's why they needed it. They needed it because they needed to spread the malicious lies. And there go the entire operation, the entire Russia hoax. Years of destroying this presidency, the Trump presidency. They did everything they could. And think about this, with everything that these guys did, none of them have been held accountable. Andy McCabe got caught lying through his teeth. They gave him back his FBI benefits this year. Most of these people, in fact, James Clapper, he actually leaked that briefing. Everybody knows it. Believe me, everybody on Capitol Hill knows it. It's even gone public a few times. That Clapper was the one that leaked the information to Jake Tapper. And where did Clapper go? He went to work for CNN. And look at Brennan, the former director of the CIA. His job was to protect our country. From foreign adversaries. Not to be meddling inside U.S. policy. That is not his role. In fact, it's against the law. But he found a way to do it. All of these people. And where did he go? MSNBC. To spread more malicious lies. So folks, trust me, Igor Danchenko is just right at the top of this food chain. And I'm going to tell you this. It was Hillary Clinton that paid for that dossier. Remember that? With Mark Sussman, Perkins Coie law firm. That's what they did. They paid for it. They paid for a dodgy dossier through Fusion GPS with Glenn Simpson, who used to work at the Wall Street Journal. He was a reporter, but he sold his soul to be political. And he used his Fusion GPS to spread malicious lies about people and play politics. And Hillary Clinton was behind it. I hope that John Durham does the right thing. I hope that Durham turns over every stone, uncovers every secret, and exposes it and disinfects it. Our nation cannot afford to be a banana republic. We have to stand above reproach. We have to stand on principle. Look, born of the tragedy of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been honoring America's heroes ever since. This year, the foundation is bringing 200 mortgage-free homes to Gold Star and fallen first responder families with young children, and to our nation's most catastrophically injured veterans and first responders. That's so awesome. It just warms my heart to know that there's an organization out there like this. And Frank Siller, by the way, who I think is a phenomenal guy, is connected where America was attacked on foot. Remember that? He went from the Pentagon to Shanksville to downtown Manhattan, where he retraced his brother's footsteps on 9/11, the brother that he lost. Thanks to your support, Towers of Light returned to the Pentagon and Shanksville memorials again this year. And for the first time, our country recognized the people we lost to 9/11 related illnesses through the foundation's ceremony. And guess what? Another first is planned for Veterans Day. Those lost in the war on terror are having their names read aloud. Honor our vow to never forget. Donate $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T2T.org. Boy, if Biden doesn't do one thing or another, it kills me. It's like now, not only did he open the border, right? Not only did he open it and just create chaos and havoc, destroy lives, destroy our national security, harm migrants as well as U.S. citizens, but he denied. Remember this big story in the Wall Street Journal? He denied these massive payouts of like $450,000 per person for every person that was separated from their child at the border under the Trump administration. Is so crazy. He denied these massive payouts to illegal immigrant families separated during the Trump administration. But I got to tell you guys, I don't think he actually even really knew about it. I think other people are running the White House and he is just completely locked out of the Situation Room. Listen to this.
As you were leaving for your overseas trip, there were reports that were surfacing that your administration is planning to pay illegal immigrants who are separated from their families at the border up to $450,000 each, possibly $1 million per family. Do you think that might incentivize more people to come over illegally?
If you guys keep sending that garbage out, yeah, but it's not true.
So this is a garbage report?
Yeah.
Okay. So
$450,000 per person. Is that what you're saying?
That was separated from a family member at the border under the last administration.
That's not going to happen.
You think? You think it might incentivize? But more importantly, doesn't it make you wonder, does Biden really know what's going on in his own White House? I have to agree with somebody who I promised I wouldn't name. I agree with them. It's Susan Rice and Obama, and I don't even know who else. Maybe the Russians are inside that White House operating everything, because obviously President Biden has no clue what is going on under his own roof. Can you imagine? Millions of dollars per family for those separated? What is going on here? And remember at the top of the show, I told you I would talk to you a little bit about what's going on at the border. There was actually a horrific murder. And I'm going to be looking into this on our side of the border. And it was a female. I don't want to go into the gruesome details of it, but this is the first time I've ever spoken about it. I learned about it just as I was getting ready to do my podcast. Horrific, Dexter style type of murder. Let me just put it that way. And I've got to tell you that there are so many people, so many innocent people too, that are migrants who have bought into this BS, these lies that are getting them to come here. Not only the The human traffickers are lying to them, but our own government is a part of this. We're incentivizing people to risk everything to get here, only to use them, only to leave them abandoned, only to not protect them. You guys, I want you to think about what is happening here. Not only that, we're endangering ourselves. We're endangering our own national security. And by the way, people are getting wise on this. It's not just the poor that are attempting to cross into the country. I have this really great, I'm going to pull it up right now on my phone. I have this really great source, and I was talking to them about what's going on, especially right now at the border, and what kind of people are they seeing crossing. And this is what they told me. Yeah, there's these ladies that came across. They were flashing wads of cash, US dollars. We saw guys driving expensive cars. Actually, this is on Facebook. When they looked people up to try to see what they were doing on social media, this is what they saw. These people that came across here saying that they were desperate, that they needed help, actually came in with really expensive luggage. And when they looked them up on Facebook, some of them had been vacationing in Mexico at resorts. They had spent 2 weeks at a resort. I won't say where. And I'm not going to read you the caption because I don't want these people to get in trouble. Some of the Colombians were carrying around $3,000 to $4,000 in cash. They were all dressed up with expensive looking luggage. Some of them were suspected to be high-end prostitutes. They had lip injections and other, plastic surgery done. These are people that are just crossing our border. They just want to sign whatever paperwork they need, and they want to be driven to an airport by one of our DHS officials. They don't want to hang out in the jail for too long or be held for too long. So they're getting very demanding. No COVID tests either, because that is considered dehumanizing if we give them a COVID test. But we're being forced into mandates, right? By the way, this is a really good question. A lot of people have been asking me this. And I'm not a lot of people, but people that are in law enforcement, because of this whole payout thing. Do U.S. citizens who get a misdemeanor, break the law, and they're separated from their children, do they get to apply for $450,000 too? I mean, that would be interesting, right? So for example, Biden is saying because the Trump administration separated families that mother or father or guardian committed a crime. Well, that happens all the time in America. There are tons of Americans that commit a crime, like crossing the border illegally, right? Or trespassing, and they're separated from their children. Can we get their American children $450,000 or the parents because they're forced to being separated? I'm just asking. I'm just wondering. And let's talk about those mandates. Right? Let's talk about these vaccine mandates. Right now, the FDA and even the vaccine companies themselves are investigating because there's some issues with these vaccines. This is no joke. People have the right to make their own decisions in their life. As far as I knew, this was America. We're talking about myocarditis, if you want to understand. And this is kind of a big deal. It's an inflammation of the heart, and they have noticed it escalating. And now Moderna, as well as Pfizer, there's an investigation going on, and they're investigating its application for use. Moderna, I know, from 12 to 17 years old. So they're investigating myocarditis, the inflammation of the heart muscles, that occurs in rare instances, they say, of the vaccine, but seems to be going up, seems to be escalating higher than it has been since, God only knows, since they started monitoring this since 2004, I think, with other issues. I saw some of these, basically these kind of graph charts where you see myocarditis in the United States is low, 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 and then as soon as we have the vaccine, it's up, up, up. I'm not a doctor, but I think the important thing is to let the researchers do their work and do it right, and for us to make our own decisions about ourselves and our family without being threatened, without being threatened that we're going to lose everything if we don't do what the government says, especially when the government does not, and I'm talking about our federal government under the Biden administration, require that people get COVID tested who cross the border or who open up our border to everybody. It's not just about COVID, folks. COVID's the least of our worries. That border is a serious issue. Terrorists are looking at it. We've got fentanyl pouring across our border, killing our children, killing our people. We have irregular warfare with China. We have drug cartels and human traffickers who are actually being assisted by our government. Yeah, not in the way that you think. But when we actually help with the movement of the smuggling process, we're assisting them. When we actually have no rules at the border and these, drug cartels are lining their pockets, we're assisting them. We have to really start thinking about what is happening in our country and why we are the way we are right now. And we have to start thinking about what we need to do, each of us. That's why we're here together, right? That's why you and I are talking. What we need to do together to tell our lawmakers enough is enough. We are not going to put up with this. We are not going to lose the greatest nation on earth to a bunch of idiots running our country into the ground. We are the ones in charge. You got to remember that. Okay, folks, it's getting cold again. And the best way to keep yourself warm this winter is just 2 words. Heat holders. By the way, I love my new heat holders. It's awesome. I'll be going to Wyoming to see my daughter there. It's snowing like crazy there, as well as Montana. I love Montana. But you know what? It's really, really cold. Well, not with my heat holders. Not with my heat holders. They have the warmest thermal socks around. In the coldest conditions, they'll keep you warm. How do they do it? Heat Holder uses a 3-stage process with a cashmere-like advanced insulating yarn that's soft to the touch and brushed on the inside and traps in warm air closer to your skin. By the way, it's so soft too. I love that. Keeping your feet warmer, comfortable, and dry. Heat Holders makes it the softest and most comfortable socks guaranteed. Heat Holders will also pamper your feet. Heat Holders also makes hats, gloves, throws, scarves, and so much more. Give someone you love. I've been giving you all these great ideas for Christmas, right? Here's Heat Holders. You can do this too. Heat Holders for the holidays, folks. Go to heatholders.com and enter the code Sara. That's S-A-R-A. That's S-A-R-A, and save 15% off your order. Receive free shipping with any purchase of $25 or more. Don't freeze your butt or feet off this winter. Remember to go to heatholders.com and use the code Sara, S-A-R-A. That's heatholders.com. Heat Holders, making life warmer. Back to that old vaccine mandate, folks. I want you to think about what just happened. Our Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals basically halted Biden's vaccine mandate. And I'm so excited because Attorney General Ken Paxton is a friend of mine, and I think he did a phenomenal job of basically stopping this and saying, hey, listen, Biden, we're not going to do this. You cannot be so intrusive. The government cannot just do whatever it wants without any repercussions. And the federal court agreed with them. So the federal court in Louisiana blocked the Biden administration's mandate that millions of workers get vaccinated against COVID-19 or be tested weekly, ruling in a suit filed by several states. By the way, if you've already had COVID, why do you need to show your COVID passport? You have antibodies, which, by the way, Israeli researchers say is 7 times more potent than the vaccine to fighting off the virus. So this is really important. States like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Utah are among the plaintiffs. More than 24 states have filed multiple legal challenges in federal court against the Biden administration's vaccinate or test mandate for private businesses, arguing that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, doesn't have the authority to issue the requirements. The 4 lawsuits were filed by groups of 26 states in the 8th Circuit, 11th Circuit, 6th Circuit, and 5th Circuit over the past few days. They seek to nullify an emergency rule released Thursday that requires companies with more than 100 employees to verify their workers are vaccinated or have unvaccinated workers wear masks and submit to weekly COVID-19 testing. The small business group, Job Creators Network, as well as, and I love Job Creators Network. I know a lot of the folks there. They're wonderful. They really fight for small business, by the way, as well as Republican National Committee have also said they plan to file lawsuits. I think that's important. This is the way we fight back. We stand up for what we believe in. We hold the government accountable and we tell them, no way, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to do it anymore. And you have to do that. You have to stand up for what is right. You can't be afraid. I know it's a scary thing to do. I really do. Because some people they're afraid. They're like, I'm going to lose my job. I can't afford to lose my job. And I get that. I don't want you to lose your job either. But I don't want us to become a country where we feel that even if we're in the right, or even if we're saying the right thing, we have to be scared because we're going to be ostracized, because we're going to lose our job. There's ways of doing this. That's why we have elected officials. That's why we have people in office that can fight for us. That's why when those people who are in office don't do what they're supposed to do, we vote them out. Right? We vote them out. And I'm going to tell you this is going to be one of the ugliest fights of all. Because this is going to be the fight whether our children will be mandated to get the vaccine. And I'm going to tell you this right now with the way things are going. My daughter is young, very young. She's already had COVID. It barely even affected her. And I think as a parent, I have the right to make a decision whether I want my daughter to be vaccinated or not. Right? I have that right. And so do you. And so do you. We just got to take it back. We are in charge. They are not in charge. Remember that. This government was established to represent the people. We are the government. We are in charge. Don't let this bureaucracy do what they did to Trump, to General. Let that be an example of how bad this system can get if we don't pay attention to what is going on. Thanks again for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I have a very, very special guest coming up on my next podcast. You're not going to want to miss it. It has everything to do with what we were talking about John Durham and everything else. Folks, you will not want to miss my next podcast. Thanks again for being a part of the show. Thank you again for being a part of my life. I hope that I've added something to yours. And again, God bless you. God bless this great nation. Frank Ziller, I am so happy to actually meet you. Tunnel to Towers is an organization, a foundation that I am so proud being a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. So thank you so much. Talk to me about the impact of the foundation and what you've been able to do to date since starting the organization.
Well, never in a million years did we think we'd be doing all the work that we're doing. We just want to make sure that we honored the sacrifice and never forgot what happened on 9/11, not just to Stephen, but all those that perished that day. But you know what? Just 10 years ago, we delivered our first smart home. From there, we realized there's such a great need. These great men and women are coming back with these injuries that they would never have survived before on the battlefield. And they need specially adapted smart homes, and they deserve to have a mortgage-free. And that's what we've been doing ever since. So, to date, we've done over 250 of those mortgage-free homes, whether it's for smart home recipients, Gold Star families, or fallen first responder families that leave young kids behind. And this year alone, we're going to deliver 200 of those mortgage-free homes. So we're very proud of that work. And they're not inexpensive, each one of them not inexpensive. So we count on the goodness of America to join us.
T2T.org. That's T2T.org. It's only $11 a month. It's up to every single one of us to do our part to help those that were willing to give everything to protect us and our families.